Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. Gold and silver seekers, give thanks. Let's explore. On this very day, we celebrate Thanksgiving. And as stackers in the community, those of us who hold precious metals, we can certainly be thankful for that which we have in our possession that is working to help protect us against a lot of issues going on these days, especially economically. Here in the United States, there's a lot of problems that we're facing, a lot of challenges. You know, we have supply chain issues. We have huge spike in gas prices. There is economic hardships. There's the coronavirus. A lot of different issues, and many of those issues are dividing us as a nation. In fact, we are more divided now than we have been since the Civil War. So what is the answer to this? How do we get through it? Well, I believe a lot of it has to do with prayer, and I believe it also has to do with working our way back towards empowering people instead of politicians. And that's easier said than done. That's an easy phrase to say, but nonetheless, that's something that it's going to take quite some time to get back to where we have been, especially as framed in our founding documents. You know, there's a lot of references in those documents to God. And what you are looking at before you here is what is referred to as God's money. And though many of us say, well, we love gold and silver, as long as we don't exalt it above God, because it is the love of money that is the root of all evil, not money itself. But nonetheless, there is something about having this form of wealth in our possession that kind of protects us from the politicians and the powers that be and the banking institutions that seem to be making all the wrong decisions now. As we have modern monetary theory, as we are increasing deficit spending, massive debt to the tune of almost $30 trillion, and physical gold and silver are something that has been sought after for so many centuries. In fact, there's a time that we can hearken upon to recall the conquistadors who did just that, conquered lands of indigenous peoples to steal their gold and silver. And but there's a special group that I'm going to be talking about now that is not a part of that, at least not in this instance. And because we do talk about Thanksgiving, and then we know of the Thanksgiving, everybody knows the story of the Pilgrims in Plymouth Rock in 1620. But some 50 years earlier, there was another group, and this group laid claim to lands much further south, much warmer, on September the 8th, 1565. The Spanish admiral kissed a cross, held aloft by the fleet's captain, Father Francisco Lopez, and then claimed Florida for both God and his country. As curious members of the indigenous Timucua tribe looked on, the 800 newly arrived colonists gathered around a makeshift altar as Father Lopez performed a Catholic Mass of thanksgiving for their safe arrival in the newly christened settlement of St. Augustine, which is known as the oldest settlement, permanent settlement in the New World. And this is at the invitation of Menendez. The Timucuans then joined the newcomers in a communal meal. That's right, this was a first Thanksgiving. I say a first because there's several that had laid claim to this in several states, including Texas. But we'll just talk about this one here because there's some pretty good documentation that this really did occur at that time because of the actual date and the events that occurred here. Some Florida historians have argued that this feast, and not the one held 56 years later by the Pilgrims in the Wampanoags in Plymouth, Massachusetts was actually North America's first Thanksgiving. It was the first community act of religion and Thanksgiving and the first permanent settlement in the land. And this is according to a book by a professor emeritus of history, Michael Gannon, in the book The Cross in the Sand. And the menu for the meal that they shared was didn't have most of today's typical Thanksgiving dishes, but it did feature a traditional post-Thanksgiving staple, leftovers. We all know about these leftovers. We get our carbohydrate and turkey comas. Sometimes the leftovers taste better than the original meal. Let those flavors settle in there. And many of us have a flavor for gold and silver that has that leftover feeling of maintaining its beauty throughout. It just works its way in. Something that never fades. Although with silver it may tarnish, but nonetheless it never fades. And it's kind of the beauty of what gold and silver is about. Beautiful metals indeed, and it's all right to admire them, I believe, and it's all right to be thankful for them. And I believe it's okay to be thankful to God for them as well, as these metals certainly have provided a bit of a safe haven for us, an insurance policy, if you will, to protect our wealth. So what did these first pilgrims, or these first settlers here with the Indians have? They served food freshly harvested from American soil. The Spanish were forced to make do with whatever provisions survived the long voyage across the Atlantic Ocean. So according to Robin Gioia, author of the children's book America's Real First Thanksgiving, the European colonists likely ate hard biscuits and cocido, a rich garbanzo stew made with pork, garlic, saffron, cabbage, and onion, washed down with red wine. The Timucua ate what was available to them locally, and that could have included alligator, bear, wild turkey, venison, turtles, and food from the sea, such as turtle, shark, mullet, or sea catfish, Goya said. Archaeological researchers also shows the indigenous people ate large amounts of oysters and clams, along with beans and squash. And so when you see at that mass, that the time of Thanksgiving in St. Augustine, Florida, way back in 1565 in September, to give thanks. It's pretty amazing. And so they believe that it probably did take place there at that time in that area in St. Augustine in 1565. And the Spaniards would again go on, or maybe have at this particular time, go on to slaughter many folks in South America for gold and silver, but not all of them did that. They claimed the land and they communed with the Indians. I think that's wonderful, and that's what it's about. It's about getting along with each other, trading and learning from each other. And there was a lot of that went on as well too. And as you know, the Spaniards eventually led up to the independence in Mexico, and Mexico has brought us a lot of really great silver and gold coins to admire throughout the ages, for sure. Fascinating indeed. But what is it about? What can we be thankful about? I believe it all comes down to this word here, libertad, which means liberty in Spanish. And I think that liberty, which is government-recognized freedom, is something that I believe should be cherished, and we should seek as well as seeking out gold and silver, because we do have freedom with gold and silver. And right now we can even consider gold and silver as part of liberty, right? I mean, we see the word liberty inscribed on our coinage to this day too, such as this American silver eagle, liberty inscribed across the top of this coin. Liberty is something that is a concept that is enshrined in our founding documents, as our founding documents do that which promotes liberty and freedom by limiting government. And I believe that is foundational. It's about putting your faith and trust in God and people, not politicians. And so we need to take that into account. I hope you enjoy your meals and your get together with family and friends on this fine day. And pray for those who are experiencing hardships during this time, whether it be health, whether it be financial, whether it be relationship oriented, or whatever struggles they may be going through. Remember them on this day as we give thanks to God and to each other and to the foundations of what this nation was founded upon. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch and encourage you to please rate, share, and have a happy Thanksgiving.